Macron thinks Zelenskyy and Putin should meet in Geneva. Zelenskyy showed Trump the situation with the occupied territories on the map, and Trump says he has begun preparing Zelenskyy-Putin meeting. The latest news next. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has made it clear that he will discuss the territorial issue with Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin, reported by Zelenskyy at a briefing in Washington. Zelenskyy said that he had slightly debated the percentage of occupied territory shown on the map presented by the Americans during the White House meeting. Meanwhile, he repeated that he had no disagreements with Trump, describing their exchange as a good, warm and substantive conversation. The president said he had explained when and how certain parts of Ukrainians' territory were occupied, including parts of the East and Crimea in 2014. Zelenskyy did not directly comment on the US position, whether they would insist on a territorial exchange or whether Ukraine has a formula determining the acceptability of recognizing certain occupied territories as belonging to Russia. We will leave the issue of territories between me and Putin, he said without going into further details. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy does not expect all members of the coalition of the willing to send a contingent to Ukraine as part of security guarantees, reported by Zelenskyy at a briefing in Washington following talks at the White House. Zelenskyy confirmed that his proposals for security guarantees for Ukraine include commitments from countries that have voluntarily joined the coalition of the willing.
We will be talking about 30 countries, members of the coalition, and we will discuss what each of these countries can actually offer in practice.
Ukraine is aware that the contributions of these states will vary significantly.
Some will probably be ready to talk about a presence, some about intelligence, some about the sea, some about air security. Some do not have the constitutional right to provide security assistance to other states, but can fund production of defense industry products for Ukraine's armed forces.
US President Donald Trump has said he had a good meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and European leaders, and that he is working on arranging talks between Russian dictator Vladimir Putin and Zelenskyy and a trilateral meeting, reported by Trump on Truth Social and CNN. Trump wrote that he had discussed the matter with Putin during a phone call following meetings with European leaders at the White House.
I had a very good meeting with distinguished guests, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy of Ukraine, President Emmanuel Macron of France, President Alexander Stubb of Finland, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy, Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Friedrich Merz, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, in the White House, which ended in a further meeting in the Oval Office.
Also, quote, at the conclusion of the meetings, I called President Putin and began the arrangements for a meeting at a location to be determined between President Putin and President Zelenskyy. After that meeting takes place, we will have a trilateral, which would be the two presidents plus myself. Again, this was a very good early step for a war that has been going on for almost 4 years. Trump did not specify when any of these meetings might take place, though media reports suggest a Zelenskyy-Putin meeting could happen at the end of August. The US president said his current meetings were focusing on security guarantees for Ukraine, which would be provided by the various European countries, with a coordination with the United States of America. French President Emmanuel Macron has said that talks between Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin should take place in Europe, in particular in Geneva, reported by European Pravda sitting BFM TV. This is more than just a hypothesis, it is the collective will, Emmanuel Macron said in an interview broadcast by French news channel TF1 LCI, responding to a question about whether this meeting, which was announced following the Washington meeting between Donald Trump and several European leaders, should be held in Europe.
This would be in a neutral country, so perhaps Switzerland. I would argue for Geneva, or another country. The last time bilateral discussions took place, it was in Istanbul.
French President Emmanuel Macron has expressed doubt that Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is currently ready to end the war against Ukraine, reported by Sky News.
When I look at the situation and the facts, I don't see President Putin very willing to get peace now.
At the same time, he praised the optimism of US President Donald Trump regarding the conclusion of a peace agreement and noted that it must be taken seriously if he considers he can get a deal done. This is great news, and we have to do whatever we can to have a great deal, Macron said. Sky News highlighted that Poland scrambled its aircraft on the night of the 18th to 19th of August due to a combined Russian attack on Ukraine. Russia attacked Ukrainian territory while talks between President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and his US counterpart Trump were in progress at the White House. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.